It has now been more than 3 years since the war in Ukraine began, and the battlefield has become a true showcase of modern warfare. From the skies above to the armored convoys crossing the countryside, every clash has revealed hard lessons about strategy, technology, and survival. One of the most striking images has been the repeated destruction of Russian convoys, powerful tank columns, and supply lines reduced to burning wrecks within minutes. These dramatic ambushes have shocked the world and changed the way we think about ground assaults in the 21st century. In this video, we revisit some of the most devastating strikes against Russian convoys, exposing the vulnerabilities of even the most heavily armed forces. Now let's take a closer look at the first strike we're about to show you. This footage was originally uploaded by the X account Null Reports on September 25, 2024. It shows a line of Russian vehicles halted on the roadside, and the attackers seizing the opportunity to deliver a devastating blow. Using HIMARS as the finishing strike, the convoy was obliterated, and to make the destruction even more spectacular, cluster munitions were also employed to inflict wider damage. The next footage takes us to the Zaporizhzhia region, where Ukraine's 118th Separate Mechanized Brigade faced off against a Russian armored convoy near the village of Malotokmashka. At the head of the column, the Russians deployed a T-72 tank fitted with turtle armor and a mine-clearing plow, attempting to open a path for the rest of their vehicles. But after surviving an initial mine blast, the tank was quickly targeted and disabled by Ukrainian FPV drones, setting the stage for what came next. As the rest of the convoy pushed forward, they entered the kill zone of Ukrainian drones and artillery. What followed was complete chaos. Drone operators launched a swarm of precise strikes, crippling multiple vehicles, while anti-tank teams and artillery fire finished the job. By the end of the battle, Ukraine had destroyed 2 T-72 tanks, several infantry fighting vehicles, an armored truck, and even motorcycles, leaving Russian troops scattered across the battlefield, disoriented and defeated. Next, footage from Ukraine's 72nd Mechanized Brigade shows a reconnaissance drone tracking 5 Russian armored vehicles moving along a rural road. Wasting no time, Ukrainian forces launch FPV drones directly into the convoy. The first strike takes out a Russian tank, while a second drone slams into an APC carrying troops. Chaos erupts as soldiers abandon their vehicles and scatter across open ground. Another abandoned Russian tank is then destroyed, turning the convoy into a burning line of wreckage. The footage continues with Ukrainian FPV drones delivering precise hits one after another, supported by artillery fire. Explosions engulf the battlefield as BMPs and tanks are reduced to twisted steel. What was once a confident Russian advance quickly turns into retreat and destruction. The scene highlights how small, inexpensive drones are now capable of defeating multi-million-dollar armored columns, showcasing Ukraine's evolving tactics and the vulnerability of Russia's once-feared armored forces. Another ambush took place in Mikilsk, east of Volodar, where 7 Russian armored vehicles attempted to break through Ukrainian defenses. As soon as they entered the area, the entire column was struck and destroyed. One of the vehicles erupted in a massive explosion, likely caused by the large amount of ammunition still stored inside, leaving nothing but burning wrecks behind. Unfortunately, the available footage is limited and does not fully capture the dramatic destruction, but as always, it is highly likely that there were significant Russian casualties despite the incomplete recording. Next, another dramatic scene unfolds near Stepov, where Ukraine's 1st Tank Brigade unleashed a devastating assault on a Russian armored column. With precise fire and unshakable determination, the Ukrainian tanks tore through the enemy formation, proving once again that even heavily armored convoys can be reduced to wreckage within minutes. After watching these ambushes against Russian convoys, one question remains: just how many armored vehicles has Russia actually lost in this war? With thousands of tanks, APCs, and other military vehicles destroyed or captured, the scale of these losses is staggering. Each destroyed column is not just metal wreckage, it represents months of production, billions in cost, and most importantly, the collapse of Russia's ability to advance on the battlefield. The ambushes we've seen are just one fragment of a much larger war. Independent trackers report that Russia has already lost thousands of armored vehicles and tanks since the invasion began. What's important to note is that many of these losses did not come from massive offensives, but from smaller, precise strikes carried out by Ukrainian drone units, anti-tank teams, and artillery crews. This shift shows us that heavy armor alone is no longer enough to dominate the battlefield. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense even released figures suggesting more than 11,000 Russian tanks and over 23,000 armored fighting vehicles have been destroyed so far. While those numbers may be inflated, the reality remains clear. Tens of thousands of Russian vehicles have been knocked out of action. And this explains why Moscow is now rushing to expand tank production, trying to fill the gaps left by enormous battlefield losses.